Welcome to another quiet journey into the past. Tonight, we'll drift gently into a time long before electricity, engines, or clocks. A time when the cold wind cut through layers of wool. But that is not where we're going tonight. The ones who woke before sunrise to tend goats and barley, who wrestled with mud, who prayed to the old gods for rain and calm seas, but mostly for enough to eat. When the days were short and the winters stretched endlessly, when survival depended not on glory in battle, but on coaxing stubborn crops from frozen earth. You've heard stories of Viking raiders, their ships slicing across stormy seas, their axes raised, their names echoing in sagas. Tonight, we settle into the life of the forgotten Viking majority, the farmers, the quiet ones, the ones who didn't raid, or didn't get the chance. We'll begin by immersing ourselves in their daily life, why it was, frankly, exhausting and cold and deeply unglamorous. Then we'll journey into the saga of the Viking siege of Paris, a reminder that even the feared had their failures. Let the cold northern wind fall silent outside your window and allow your mind to slip slowly into the Viking world. Next, we'll follow the dead-on quiet ships set aflame into mystery and myth. And finally, we'll warm ourselves in a longhouse feast where loyalty and betrayal sat side by side at the fire. So close your eyes if you haven't already. Take a long, deep breath. Segment 1. Why it sucked to be a Viking farmer. Imagine yourself in a narrow wooden house. The roof is sod-covered, low and heavy, like the sky in winter. Smoke hangs in the air from a small hearth in the center. The smell is a thick mixed burnt peat, damp wool, and the sourness of yesterday's stew. You pull a rough wool blanket tighter around your shoulders. The fire has almost gone out. You are a Viking farmer, and it is winter. Your day begins not with the sun, but with the faint gray hint that the long night might soon give way. There's no rooster to wake you, only the cold. The kind that creeps in through walls, through your clothing, into your bones. You rub your hands together and start moving because stillness means cold. And cold means danger. There's no breakfast waiting. Maybe there's a hard crust of barley bread. If you're lucky, a thin bit of smoked fish, long since dried from the summer catch. Food is never guaranteed. Your summer's harvest was poor and the stores are dwindling. Your first task, the animals. The goats bleat hungrily in the dim barn. Their breath fogs the air as you trudge out to them, your boots squelching in the muck and straw. The chickens cluck sleepily. The pigs grunt from a corner. They're fed first grain if you have it, scraps if you don't. You can't afford to lose them. They're more valuable than your tools, maybe even your home. The air is heavy with the smell of dung. It's not pleasant, but you've stopped noticing. The rhythm of your life smells like this. Then there's water to fetch, not from a faucet. You carry buckets down to a stream or to the well if the stream's frozen. They're heavy. Your shoulders ache before midday. You've been doing this since you were strong enough to walk. In the growing season, there would be fields to tend barley, rye, oats crops that don't mind the cold quite as much. You work with crude tools, wooden plows tipped with iron, pulled by oxen if you're fortunate. The soil fights you rocky, stubborn, often flooded. Some days it feels like the earth itself resents you. And then there's the weather. Rain when you don't want it. Drought when you need rain. The wind always howling across the fjord. You glance at the horizon, often not for invaders, but for signs the weather might turn again. You're constantly patching things, your roof, your boots, the fence that keeps the goats in. Wood is valuable, iron nails even more so. Everything is reused. Nothing is wasted. The nights are long in winter, long enough that the dark feels like its own season. By late afternoon, you're already gathering in what little warmth you can. Dinner is simple, a stew of root vegetables, maybe a little meat. Most of your calories come from bread and beer thin. Weak beer is safer than water. You sit by the fire with your family, The fire cracks softly. Someone mends a tunic. A child recites a bit of saga they heard last week. There's not much talking, just the sound of wool against bone needles and wind against the shutters. But even here, there's worry. A neighboring farm lost their store of grain to rats. Another's cow slipped on ice and broke a leg. The gods may be watching, but they're not generous. You sleep lightly. The thatch roof creaks. The cold presses in from every wall. The baby coughs in the dark. You dream of summer, not because it's beautiful, but because at least you don't feel cold all the way through. And when morning comes, you do it all again. No songs are sung for you. No tales told. But your work feeds the warriors, supports the kings, shapes the world. Still, it sucks to be you. Now, let's leave the farm for a while. Let's journey downriver to the city of Paris in the year 845, where Vikings once thought they could take anything they wanted. But the river had other plans. Segment 2, The Siege of Paris. When the Vikings weren't so tough, let the farm fade into the background now. The chill of the fjord mist, the clatter of wooden pails, the ever-present ache of survival, it all drifts away like smoke in the northern wind. Now, picture yourself aboard a long, narrow ship. The water beneath you is dark and slow-moving. The oars creak gently in their locks. Your companions murmur low to one another, their voices dulled by the fog. A tattered raven banner flaps above your head. The smell of damp wood, wet wool, and animal fat candles clings to everything. You are part of a Viking fleet. Descending the Seine, the year is 845. Paris lies ahead. But this is not the Paris you know today. There are no wide boulevards, no glimmering lights, no iron towers. The city is smaller, a cluster of wooden buildings, encircled by walls, nestled on an island in the river. It is rich, yes, but vulnerable. The Frankish king Charles the Bald rules these lands, and he has heard of your coming. The Viking fleet is led by a man known to the Franks as Reginhurus. Some speculate this is the legendary Ragnar Lothbrok, though the truth is fogged by time, like the mist along the Seine. Ragnar, if it was him, commands 120 ships and over 5,000 warriors. This is no mere raid. It is a campaign, a message. The city is quiet as the fleet approaches. The waters grow sluggish, the banks narrow. The scent of burning fields and damp earth lingers in the air. Already, smaller villages along the river have been plundered. Some gave up their treasures quickly. Others tried to resist and now lie in smoldering ruins. But Paris is different. It is fortified. As the Vikings land and prepare their siege, the city braces. The walls rise up like a challenge tall and weathered. The bells toll low warning, echoing across the water. Priests lead prayers. Archers take their positions. The river turns. The siege begins. Now, imagine yourself on the edge of it all, not in the heart of the fighting, but just within earshot. You hear the grunts of men lifting ladders, the twang of bows, the strange, distant thunder of battering rams striking old gates. The air is thick with tension, but not chaos. It is slow, rhythmic, unfolding like a storm cloud rather than a flash of lightning. But the Parisians do not fall easily. As days pass, the siege drags on. The Vikings expect swift surrender. Instead, they find resistance. Supply lines begin to stretch thin. The Franks refuse to meet them in open battle, and the river's spring floods make movement difficult. Morale begins to waver. Then plague. Not all enemies wear armor. Disease moves quietly through the Viking camp, slowly at first, then faster. Men who are healthy one day are shivering the next. The damp ground becomes a graveyard. Fires burn to mask the smell of decay. The mighty fleet, once confident in its strength, finds itself paralyzed. Fear creeps in. Not the fear of sword or spear, but the fear of something unseen, uncontrollable, indifferent. King Charles watches from afar, and he decides not to fight. Instead, he offers payment, a bribe, some call it. Others attribute 7,000 pounds of silver. The Vikings take it. Paris remains standing. It is, in many ways, a humiliation. The siege did not end in fire or conquest, but in quiet withdrawal. The Parisians survive. The Frankish king, though criticized, avoids the bloodshed. And the Vikings, they return to their ships, their pockets heavier, but their pride somewhat bruised. Even legends have limits. Even the fierce get tired, and even the boldest plans can be undone by nature, by resistance, or by the simple grinding weight of time. So now, let the sound of oars fade again. Let the murmur of the Seine grow still. The city fades behind us, not burned, but intact. The longships drift silently away, and we drift onward too, past the battlefields and borders, past the ambitions of kings and raiders, toward a quieter mystery, a journey not of conquest, but of remembrance, where the dead are laid in ships, not for war, but for peace. Segment 3. Viking burial ships, ghost stories in wood and fire, the river narrows behind us. The echoes of siege and surrender slipping gently into silence. Now, picture a different kind of Viking ship, not gliding across the sea or laying siege to cities, but resting on dry land motionless, waiting. The wood is dark with oil, polished smooth by hand and time. Around it, a circle of solemn faces. Some are family, some are strangers, all are still. This is not a warship. This is a vessel for the dead. You are standing at the edge of a Viking funeral. The air is heavy, not with the noise of mourning, but with the weight of tradition. There are no dramatic cries, no loud sobs. Just a quiet reverence, a knowing stillness, as if the world has momentarily paused. In Viking culture, death was not an end, but a transition. A crossing, a journey to another realm, and for some, especially those of status or bravery, that journey began in a ship. The idea was simple. The ship that carried them in life would carry them again into the next. But the preparations were not simple. The body was laid within the ship, dressed in its finest tunic or armor. Around it, offerings replaced gifts for the afterlife. A sword, a drinking horn, jewelry, sometimes food, or a sacrificed animal believed to guide or serve in the next world. In certain high-status burials, even enslaved people were ritually sacrificed, though this was rare and deeply bound to belief. The ship might then be buried under a mound, entombed in earth like a hushed memory, or, more famously, it might be burned. Imagine standing at a distance, watching the longship slowly drift into deeper waters, a torch touching its bow. The flames grow slowly, at first gentle flickers in the wind. Then, steadily, they rise, not violently, but with grace. Smoke begins to curl upward, joining the evening sky. This is no pyre of agony. It is a release. The crackling of fire blends with the soft lap of waves. And soon, the ship is just a silhouette, glowing against the dark. Archaeologists today study what remains of these rituals. Charred wood, iron nails, the faint outlines of grave goods. Some ships, like the Oseberg ship found in a burial mound in Norway, were never burned. The Oseberg ship was buried, preserved under clay and turf, its lines elegant, its carvings elaborate. It held 2 women believed to be of high status. Their identities remain unknown, their stories silent. What these burial practices tell us is that the Vikings saw death not as destruction, but as transformation. And they prepared for it carefully. It mattered how you were remembered. It mattered how you loved the world. The fire was not just an end. It was a signal that a journey had begun. Even in death, there was a sense of movement. Even in silence, a kind of song. As the last embers flicker out on the imagined horizon, We leave the fire behind. The ghosts are quiet now. Their journey is their own, and we return to the land of the living, not to the fields, not to the rivers, but to the longhouse, where warmth and need and whispered politics still shape the fate of a community. Let's step inside. Segment 4. Feast in a longhouse. Mead, meat, and bone dice. The burial smoke fades into the night sky, and the chill air wraps once more around your shoulders. But ahead there is light. A soft, golden glow spilling from gaps in wooden walls. The low murmur of voices. The rhythmic beat of footsteps on packed earth. The creak of timber. The faint scent of roasted meat. And something sweeter honey, herbs, maybe spice. You step toward the longhouse. Its silhouette stretches wide and low, like a sleeping beast. The roof is steep, covered in thatch. Smoke drifts lazily from the hole in the center. Inside, the air is warm, dense with breath and fire. You push the heavy wooden door open and enter. The noise greets you gently, not raucous, not wild, but alive. Dozens of voices mingle, softened by distance and firelight. Cloaks hang from pegs, boots litter the entry. A dog sleeps near the hearth, tail twitching in a dream. This is not a battlefield. This is where bonds are formed, stories told, plans whispered. The Viking longhouse was more than shelter, it was the heart of the community. Built from wood and turf, often shared by entire families or extended kin, it was a space of both necessity and ceremony. Daily life unfolded here, yes, but so did feasts, councils, marriages, and rituals. You make your way to the central hearth. Smoke coils lazily upward through the smoke hole above. Around you, people sit on benches lined with fur. Some drink from wooden cups. Others pass a carved bone dice game, laughing softly. The food is simple, yet hearty. Stewed meats likely lamb or pork, root vegetables, fresh bread if the gods are generous. And of course, mead, sweet and thick, fermented from honey, warming as it goes down. It's poured into horns or earthen cups and passed around slowly with nods and quiet smiles. But behind the warmth, there is structure. Feasts are not free-for-alls. They are ordered. The seating matters. The host sits in a place of prominence. The ranking guests flank him. There are expectations, ritual toasts to the gods, to ancestors, to fallen warriors. Cups are raised deliberately. Words are chosen carefully, and behind the smiles. Sometimes there are politics. Alliances can be built over a shared horn of mead, but so too can grudges, a poorly timed joke, a withheld invitation, a guest seated too far from the fire. It can mean offense. Memory is long in the north, and revenge, like the winter, comes slowly but surely. Still, tonight, things are calm. The dog stretches. The elders speak softly. A skald, the Norse storyteller, begins to hum an old tune. It's not loud. Not even a song yet. Just a rhythm, like waves lapping at a wooden hull. And as the stories begin, time seems to slow. He recites the tale of a warrior who sailed west, fought bravely, but died humbly. Of a woman who outwitted a jarl to save her village. Of gods who argue endlessly across the stars. The tales are old, familiar, but comforting. In this longhouse, you feel the echoes of thousands like it, across valleys, across centuries, built by calloused hands, lit by the same flickering fire, filled with people who worked hard, lost sleep, and crave connection. Eventually, the fire dies low. The guests lean against one another. The skald's voice trails off, the meat is gone, and sleep arrives, without fanfare. Just soft breathing, just silence, just peace. Conclusion. A world that whispered, not roared now, let all the sounds drift away. The scrape of boots on earth, the cough of the ox, the rush of the Seine, and flame. The clink of a cup, let it all fade. You've walked the muddy paths of a Viking farm and felt the weight of survival in every step. You've stood on the shores of Paris and seen that even raiders sometimes retreat. You've watched a ship carry a soul into the next life, guided by fire and belief. And you've warmed yourself in a hall of stories where even the fiercest knew how to be still. This was the Viking world, not a saga, not a song, but as it was, quiet, cold, crowded, sacred, and often hard, but somehow always enduring. So now, as you return to the stillness of your room, to the softness of your pillow, remember that the past doesn't shout. It whispers, and tonight, it has whispered you towards sleep. Good night.